that tell me and I may forget, show me and I may remember, involve me and I will understand. And that basically is the crux of what learning by doing is all about. That's the foundation on which real life projects have started. So during our course in Bhumi, we learned about the importance of experiential learning, the importance of actually getting your hands dirty, going into the field and working. And what you learn during those experiences, you remember forever. Rather than just listening to someone else give you instructions, or rather than even just watching them perform, what you learn by actually going and working, it stays with you for a really, really long time. There's also something known as a learning pyramid. So, in a learning pyramid, what it says is that you remember only 5% of what you learn by listening. When someone talks to you, you retain just 5% of that information. But what you get involved in, what you actually do, you retain more than 75% of that information. So, as it says here, learning is an active process. You learn by doing, and the knowledge that is used, that sticks in your mind. So, let's get a basic idea of what the flow of today's webinar is going to be like. What we're going to do first is Teshu is going to lead you in. She's going to talk to you about the importance of real life projects. And then we are going into the benefits. So how does it help? How does real life projects help a person, whether it's school, whether it's colleges, or it could just be projects that you've taken up at your house? How does it benefit you? How does it help increase your knowledge of a concept? Having spoken about the benefits, then we would like to take you through the processes which are in place. What kind of steps do you need to take? What are the processes that are involved? After which we'll take a couple of questions and then move on quickly to an activity. So in the spirit of learning by doing, I think we ought to have an activity where we're going to break you up in separate breakout rooms, and you're going to do a short discussion on what real life projects actually are. And then in conclusion, we'll get back to a few question answers. So if you're all ready, I'd like to ask Teshu to now lead you in. Yeah, Teshu.
Namaskara everyone. So as just Pooja mentioned just a bit about what real life project is, I would like to hold a few discussions about the real life project. So to begin with, I would like to, we all know that we live in this era where information can be accessed at the tip of our fingers. But while one side of this coin is amazing, the other side can be very much overwhelming and make us feel disconnected from the real world. And I think real life projects are this opportunity to actually engage and go out there and do these projects and engage with the real world and its problems. So what I would like to say that as much as it is convenient to just consume information, I think there is a lot of fun and adventure and in-depth learning when we do a real life project, because in that we devise solutions, we interact with various fields, we collaborate and contribute to a common goal, and we learn different in-depth concepts, like just how in nature there are interconnections. We try to make these interconnections, and also we make our own decisions when we are trying to devise a solution for the real life project. So I think we have all gone through this schooling system where we are taught about the problems or the real world which is out there, but I think real life project really brings these problems of the world in here within you, so that you can interact with them in a better way. So with this webinar, we would like to introduce you to moving from the old school method of passive learning to engaging with a real life project and learning the real world through the projects. So I hope by the end of the webinar, we'll be able to, shift from the old school method of passive learning to the new method of project-based learning. Having said that, I would like to now introduce you to the various benefits of real life project. But before I go ahead, I would want you, all of you, to take a guess what could be the benefits of real life project. So if you guys can, chat in the chat box or just unmute yourself and tell a few benefits of real life project. Yeah, Sneha says it's experiential learning that you can never forget. It's fun, it's joyful, it's happiness. There's involvement, joy of involvement and experiencing, clarity and details involved, right? Yeah,
And it's very active. I think you put it to use.
right, Avni. We put it to use, remembering it forever,
I
right?
think you get to make mistakes when you do something and you learn from mistakes right then and there.
Right, that's true. We learn to make mistakes and learn from them. Yeah, see the challenges. Yeah, practically know why you're doing what you're doing. Right. So having said that, there's so many benefits to real life projects. So we would like to, go in a little bit of depth in understanding each of the benefit. First, I would like to, talk about theory to practice. I'm sure we have all had this question in our school or in our day-to-day life. Why are we learning this formula or this concept or this method? Where am I going to use it? So I think real life project is an answer to that question, where you can really put in what you have studied in theory into practice. So it's like learning the various concepts and then putting them into use, and also learning concepts while you're, engaging with the project. You're doing a project and then you come up, with the concept that you have learned through the projects. So it works in both ways, and it's not just something that is being imposed upon you. It's not something that you're learning from a prescribed textbook, or there is no teacher who is just telling you that this is the definition of it. But when you're engaging with it and the learning slowly unfolds as you go ahead with the project, I think that becomes more experiential, and as you all said, you can remember better, and you start enjoying that learning process once it starts unfolding instead of becoming an imposition. The second benefit that we would like to talk about, which is very important, is the life skills learning. So what happens with a real life project is that you learn about a lot of things. So with a real life project, you usually collaborate with other people to go ahead in a project. For example, if I'm doing a real life project on seafood, I would, interact with the farmers, with the distributors, with the consumers, and also, I would like to understand the prices of the crops. I would like to understand the habits of eating, etc., and see how they are interlinked to each other, so that my projects become holistically, well. And I would what happens also when you take up a real life project, you will be exposed to a situation where you'll have to take these decisions, where you'll have to take initiatives to finding something, where you'll have to, handle emergencies or situations that come on the field. And you'll also have to handle the internal dynamics within your group, and that kind of helps you to, collaborate with everyone, make connections and move ahead with it. Having said about these two real benefits of real life projects, I think we can move ahead, and now Pooja will talk to you about more benefits. Pooja? Pooja?
I'm sorry. Yeah. Sorry. So you Now, what would be another benefit of a real life project? So mentoring. Let's talk about you taking up a project that you're extremely passionate about. But where do you start? What possible hurdles could come in your way? And what can you do to change that? A mentor is what kicks in at this moment. So they say a great mentor is someone who will hold your hand and guide you, and he's a ear to listen, and he's that gentle push that is needed to push you in the right direction. So one of the things we did in Boomi as well, when we picked up a real life project, was to look for experts in the field who could then guide us. And it's amazing how so many people out there are just willing to mentor you, to guide you, and help you achieve your goals. The next thing is here is ikigai. It sounds like a big word, but what it basically is you taking up your passion, something that you deeply enjoy, that's something that gives you joy, and integrating it with things that you're good at. What are your skills? You could be really good at writing. You could be really good at art. You could be really good in just communication. So suppose you take up a real life project, like you want to imagine, you want to create awareness of green spaces in your community. You feel that's something that's lacking in the community and you want to take it up as a real life project. So if you kind of ask yourself, what are your skills? What is it you're good at? And if making that a greener space is what gives you joy, if that's what gives you purpose, then that's something you ought to take up. And integrating, bringing these three things together is your little ikigai right there. Something else that helps is, the sense of empowerment that comes in. Now, when you take up a project on your own, like even students at school, when you give them a real life project, the sense of ownership that is there, the sense of this is my project, I will set my guidelines, I will set my timelines, and I'll work to achieve it. And then the sense of accomplishment and achievement at having achieved those goals. That's the feeling of empowerment I'm talking about. So these are just 5 benefits of real life project out there, but frankly, once you start working, the benefits are immense. Let's go on to processes. That's right here. Look at your real life project as a project. A project by definition has a start and an end, and milestones in working on it. You still have, and you also learn that you work a team. So how do you work with other people? How do you collaborate? How do you plan? And there's a little team building, creating a rapport with your team members. You learn all that in this. Well, we had to do a lot of research, and very frankly, for any project you take up, you can't just, pick up one textbook and say, this is what's available and this is what I'm going to do. So as Boomi Fellows, we had access to the Boomi library. We also had access to Prakriya's library. Even if not as that, you have so much of internet information. There are public libraries in this kind of more about the concept. Various stakeholders. I think this is the first question you must ask yourself, even though begin project, who like this project that's for help students, parents, and understand what's their stake in the game, and then how can your project benefit all of them. Introduction is very simple about in this field for so many years who have years of expertise and trying to gain from their knowledge. As fellows from Boomi, we had a lot of guidance from different facilitators who kind of pushed us, who drove us, who made sure that we had our project ready on time. And having that sort of a guidance also really helps in trying to achieve any kind of real life project. Having said that, we've now spoken about the benefits, we've spoken about the processes that are in place. Now there are different kind of real life projects that are possible. You can have different kind of impact, small to medium to really large. So let me ask Teshu now to lead you in with how you can extend impact on real life projects. Yeah, Teshu.
Yeah. Now that we have understood what are the benefits benefits of a real life project and what are the different steps or processes that you go through to build your real life project, I think it's also important to talk about the impact that your real life project can have on various levels. So we always underestimate what we can do at an individual level, and I think we always overestimate what we can do at a systemic level. So we wanted to bring in the concept of extending impact so that you can move from one level to another and extend the impact of your real life project. So I would like to take an example for this and then explain this concept. So suppose I'm a person who is really concerned about the waste generated nowadays. So what would I do? When you look at it, it may sound something that is at a systemic level because waste is generated by everyone. But when you go through the processes and inquire closely, then you'll understand that you can do something at an individual level. So what can be done at an individual level? You can take up a real life project to make your home a zero waste home. You can think about your consumption. You can reduce your plastic consumption. You can make small changes so that waste from your home is reduced to a minimal. And then once you've done this, you can have conversations about what steps you have taken with your family members, and then go ahead and discuss it with your colleagues or your friends or your neighborhood, and then start building this movement within a community. And they all you all get together and they come in and they start taking these small steps and reduce the amount of waste that is being generated at their home or at their office or at their apartment, etc. Now that you have built in the strong community around the idea of reducing the waste generation, you can go ahead and design various plans to implement it at a systemic level. You can hold workshops for various institutions where you can tell them of the simplest ways of reducing waste at their institution, and also file PILs where you are requesting the government to take certain actions so that the plight of the municipality workers in it kind of becomes better. And you can take these small little steps where you can have an impact at the systemic level. So we wanted to bring in this concept because it's easier when you're scaling going your doing your project at an individual level first, and then at a community level, and then at aiming at a systemic level, so that every time you do a project you will have something to look forward to, because you'll be making there'll be different challenges at each level, and it would be very interesting and adventurous if you really follow these steps. So I think with this we have really talked about uh, real life projects, and real life projects are something that are not much to be talked about and more to be experienced. So as Bhumi fellows, we had a chance to do various real life projects, and the batches before us also did various real life projects. So I think it would be really nice if, and it would be worth if they also shared what they did. And so first I would like to invite Suruchi to share about her real life project.
Can you hear me? Thanks, Deshu.
Yeah, we
Am I
can hear you.
audible?
You're audible.
Okay, all right. So, namaskara, everybody. My name is Suruchi, and I recently graduated from Bhumi. I was a fellow for sustainable living. And Teju, if you want to share the slides, I just have 3 or 4 slides, and I want to make sure I don't exceed my 5 minutes. Go back to the first slide. Yeah. So, so this real life project, we were split into teams of 4 or 5, and we took on projects that we got drawn to. So I and my friends, we took up the biodiversity projects. So Bhumi has more than 100 variety of trees. So the project was to create a biodiversity document or a register where we document all the trees that are in the Bhumi campus. We had a lot of help from the Bhumi gardeners who helped us do this. So the way we started it was we started taking walks around the Bhumi campus, and we started, getting familiar with all the trees that are there. That in itself was such a pleasurable experience. And with the help of the facilitators and the gardeners, we started identifying trees. And one way to do is I put up, these 4 pictures of the trees. One way to identify trees is via its bark, its leaves, its fruits, and its flowers. So if you see, we have a soap nut tree. These days, everybody is interested in using eco-friendly products, and soap nut is one very good cleaning product. So we at Bhumi, there are a number of trees, soap nut trees. So if you see, we have the fruits here and the tree here. So that is what we did with all the trees. If we were lucky enough and if they were in season, we got pictures of the fruits as well as the flowers, and we did notes. And in addition, it's not just documenting, but also learning more about the trees, what kind of diversity. I mean, in addition to how useful they can be to human beings, trees also, they play a big role in the whole ecosystem. So with so many different kinds of trees, we started looking at what kind of birds and insects and bees and butterflies got attracted to the campus. So that was, that was one way that the project went. Also, Bhumi, it has a lot of visitors from outside. It has a organic market every first and third Saturday. So we get a lot of visitors from outside. Families come in. So what we thought was, in addition to creating the register, we could also, have name boards for trees that that people don't generally see. In fact, children hardly see trees. They're hardly able to identify trees. So we started putting name boards with the Kannada and the English common name, so that they would know, okay, you're eating drumsticks. So how does the drumstick tree look like? So, we started doing that for, commonly seen, like even mangoes. Some children don't even know how to identify a mango tree. So that was one aspect of the project. Again, this is the same thing. This is a teak. Again, we were lucky enough to have the fruits. On the right-hand side, the bark is of the mahogany tree. And, we also had these pods falling down with the seeds in it. So, that prompted us, it was seed season, and that prompted us to kind of collect seeds for all the trees that there are in Bhumi. And we actually, got all the seeds together and did an activity where we also had other students to identify these seeds. And besides that, when visitors come in, then the third thing that we did was we planned activities for them. So we collected a lot of games surrounding biodiversity and trees and plants that we could have with the children even later on. So the project is like an ongoing project. It's not really ended. The time was too less, so we couldn't really identify 100 trees, but the project has started. And in addition to the register, this is one thing that is going on where the children can get involved with a lot of activities, both children and the adults. So there's another document being created where we have all these activities. So that was really our project. And, it's, I don't think it has an endpoint, because you can be so creative with biodiversity. One thing we didn't get to do was also make seed balls. That was another thing that we wanted, so we could distribute it and people could throw it during the monsoon season. But during because of the COVID COVID, we couldn't do that. So, and the list goes on. Actually, you can have a wide variety of things that you can do with these kind of things. And then the third, put one next slide, Teshu. So we tried out these activities. You know, it's one thing to collect and think of activities. One slide behind, Teshu. It's one thing to kind of think of activities, but you also need to try them out. So our at the end of our course, we actually tried these activities with our classmates, and that was, you know, a lot of fun. And we also got a sense of what would work and what would not when we played it during the Sante or the organic market. So that was our real life project. I also have a slide, Teshu, last slide. In addition to the real life project, we also have internships, and that is also in a sense a real life project, although it is done individually. And my internship, I took up terrace gardening, and that was also a 6-week journey in itself. A lot of learnings, basically a lot of learning with how to grow and what to grow in urban gardens, the food, you know, what kind of soil is needed for terrace gardening. I learned about medicinal plants, composting, and also biofertilizers and biopesticides. So within a span of 10 months, you know, a lot of learning was hands-on, and I think that is something that is true learning. You know, the you never forget that when you actually do it yourself, rather than, you know, just read things from a book. And this is something actually, even, you know, I have just fallen in love with this gardening, and it's something that I can take lifelong with me. So I think I will end with that, and you know, move on to the other presenter. Thanks a lot, Teshu.
Yeah, thank you, Suruchi. So we also have one of our alumni, Avni, and she's done a real life project on personal care products. So I would request Avni to share with us about her real life project.
That was nice, Ruchi. And thanks, Tejaswini. My name is Avni. I was a sustainable living fellow a couple of years ago. So we had 2 slots for real life project and 1 internship. So in all, I did 4 projects. The last slot, I did 2 projects parallelly. One was on farming at a urban plot. So this was a gated community. There was a small piece of land which was not disturbed by animals or other people around. So we were able to farm there. We tried growing vegetables. I mean, 6 weeks is a very small period of time. What we could do is prepare the land, sow some seeds, and have them sprout. So we had to wait longer for the fruits and vegetables. The next project was personal care project. This was inspired by a fellow classmate. She had done some work in it because of certain health issues. She identified which were the chemicals that caused disturbances and found small solutions. So this triggered something in me. This was of interest to me. So we said, why not make a team and make this a real life project? The other project which I did was drip irrigation of Jeevamrit. This did not see life for various reasons. It required certain construction. Then there was composting. I think the composter is still working at Prakriya. This was for the food slurry that was being wasted, and waste was leaving campus. So there was a lot of learning in all of these. I would like to go a little further of how these learning did become into a, I would say, I would not exactly put it as livelihood, but a little further than just a project. I still practice them. I take the products to customers. These are maybe at the Sante market. Then there are not a small group of people who do come home and buy these products. So I have a set of small customers where I've been able to take this project to a little different level. So for this, I would like to point out to Ikigai. With each project, all the 4 P's, the purpose, profit, problem, and passion, at least one was missing, and it was only personal care, where all 4 of them came together. And that's how it could really go a little further. So when I say purpose, I really didn't know. It was just a simple interest when I heard my fellow classmates speaking about it. And only when I put it into practice, we created certain solutions that if a certain chemical is going to harm you, so what is an alternate? Can you do it at home? Like Kajal is a simple coal which we were doing it. So we went back to question how our grandmothers did it. Can it be made into a product? Can it be sold with a small packaging? The answer was yes. So we got it out. And everything required a little bit of maybe, a little bit of research backward to know how we did it earlier, or which were the products which could be eliminated and you could come as close to probably a good hair oil, a good cream, or maybe a makeup, there is a lipstick, can you do it? So yes, we cannot do a lot of things that are available in the market. That is a problem where people want to look colorful and have various colors for their lips, eyes. No, not all of them were possible. While the problem, the world needs it, but no, there was not a natural solution to it. But the need to look good, yes. If people had chapped lips, yes, there was a product for it. So there was profit in it because people were willing to pay for this. Purpose, yes, it was initially the purpose I was looking for was organic products, farming, food, but this was feeding the body in another way. The skin being the largest organ so it gave me a similar satisfaction. I didn't know it would be my purpose until I got into it. It was like getting into an unknown zone. And there is a crafter in me. So formulating these products also fed the crafter in me. That's how when all the 4 P's came together, I was able to take it to a little next level. And thanks to the Real Life Project, which helped me experiment with all this. I'm done with this.
So taking on from
Yeah, thank you. I just still.
Hello, Pooja.
I think we lost Pooja. So yeah.
I'll continue. Okay.
Yeah. Thank
Yeah,
you.
Teja, I'll start.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah,
Now
Radha, please,
I
sorry.
request Radha to go ahead.
Namaskar, everybody. I'm from Prakriya. I've been working in the school for past 8 years, and it's been a pleasurable journey for me. A lot of learning because a lot of real life projects have been, we have been associated with. So, to just talk about why in our school, we keep on revisiting or keep on doing a lot of things associated with real life, because we as a school, we believe in our basic philosophy, core philosophy believes in fostering children towards earth consciousness, or building children towards earth citizenships. So if we are saying about earth consciousness, earth is very much alive and earth is very much around us, right? So how can we be always alienated from the earth and do those projects which is there in the classroom? So most of the projects, if at all I have to speak, in Prakriya is associated with real life. So I'll just take examples of few which personally I have been associated with. So once I teach mathematics in middle school. I used to teach probably, and right now I moved to higher school. So one of the time, me and my co-teacher, we decided, okay, let's have a math project, but let's do something with, something that's surrounding us, that's bothering us. Time and again, children were coming back to us to say that, why can't we have a concrete, volleyball ground, and why is Prakriya always having this mud and it gets wet and we are not able to play? Why? So then me and our co-teacher, we said, okay, we will have something. We told the children, okay, our project will revolve around this. So we said that this is associated with that ICSE, project, which is for 20 marks. So we started the project from the scratch in terms of saying, like, okay, go first of all find what is a volleyball, what is this basketball court, and measure it, because somewhere we wanted to tie it up with mensuration. That was there in the back of the mind. Of course, children didn't know anything about it, so we said, okay, get all the statistics that is required. So in terms of what is a measurement and what kind of a court we want. So some children said concrete, some children said turf. So there were 4 groups which formed, and they said we all want this. So we said, okay, go ahead. This is what is a project that you have to come out with. What is it that you want, and what is the cost of it, and how are you going to do, and also look at how are you going to sustain, because a project doesn't end only with probably doing more. It also has to sustain. So we said, so this project was split into such a way that you have to finally also have a model and have a debate. Like each group has to kind of debate about why we wanted this project. So it was an interesting thing where, because the children were very much, alive with this kind of an issue that we want. So everybody, we could see their involvement, coming back and researching, auntie, why not this? Why not a grass court? Why all that? So, I would say that it was not just a math project, it was a learning for the life. And the best thing that really came up was a debate where, one group really was pointing about, if you're talking about concrete, what about the water waste, water, what about, if you're talking about the turf, what about the maintenance issue? So they had researched so beautifully, said the debate was so much alive in front. And so finally, we had to come to a point like, okay, Prakriya is as is, because of certain things that we believe in. We believe in earth consciousness. We believe in, if we say that it is not earth friendly, let's not probably go there. Can we do it with whatever we are having as resources? But it so happened that the children who were in 7th, when they kind of came back, when they were in 10th, and when they graduated, when they came back, we really had a, concrete, basketball court, and the children were really taken aback, and they kind of said, oh my God, it was our project, though it was all on papers, but you people made it, real. Of course, they fought with us to say that why you didn't do that time and why you're doing it this time. But that has really stayed with me in terms of what happens to the real life when we kind of, trigger this real life projects with the children. Another project that I would talk about is, Recharge Pit, which was envisioned by a teacher in a chemistry class. And she said, okay, because it was troubling her whenever she used to come to school, she used to see that the, water, whenever it was raining, the water used to erode the soil, and soil erosion was happening in the school. So she spoke to a few people, and she came up with a project. She wanted to do Recharge Pit. And in fact, she spoke to the founder of the school, Sita, also, because she had to, do a project proposal. Finally, when it came to a class, it was such a learning for the children in terms of saying that, first of all, children had to go study what is happening. So luckily it was a rainy season, so they could see the flow of water, how the soil erosion was happening, and finally where is the soil, where is the water finally getting collected. So right from digging the pit, right from first of all finding how much we should dig, and take out the soil, and how was the entire process. So it was not just a chemistry project. It became a middle school kind of a project, where children, with every minute break, they would go there and we would see them digging. And first, probably in the initial stage, there was like, oh, it's so yucky, but there was geography happening in terms of topsoil, subsoil. There was so much math happening in terms of volume of mud that's taken out, and the depth of, the integration of subjects happens seamlessly. And each of us, per se, could take out from that project and take it to our classes. So that is what, real life project means in Prakriya, that it is not just one subject. It goes on. It's taken by the entire community. And like even the primary children would come and see, oh, this is what the children are doing, what are they doing, their curiosity level, and then the high school children will be, like middle school children will be answering them. So I personally feel real life projects has been a great learning personally for me. And as Pooja started, you learn by doing. We always believe that. So we always want to give the opportunity to children to, do and then probably figure it out and then make your own connection. Sometimes we don't even join the dots for them because there are so many dots that's possible, but we try and join, but we leave certain things to be open also because so many dots can be joined. If I have to really talk about each and every project, I think I don't think the Bhumi would be giving me so much of time. I think I have overshot, but it's been an abundant learning for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Radha. It was lovely hearing your sharing. So we also have one more alumni, Deepak, who will be sharing about his real life project. So Deepak, can you share with us about your real life project?
Hello, Teshu.
Yeah, Deepak.
Am I audible?
Yes, you're audible, Deepak.
Yeah, thank you. Namaskara, everyone. Hello. Hello.
We can hear
Yes,
you.
Deepak, go ahead. We can hear you.
Okay.
So you can start.
This real life project probably would have not happened if I was not from Mysore. So I always had this beautiful memory and the imagery of a lake means going and writing poetry and such kind of things where even the Gnanapeeth Awardee Kuvempu, who had been regular to that lake. So this was on my second day of Bhumi, where I joined as a fellow of sustainable living, 2018-2019 batch. And people told me that there's a lake behind a campus and all such things. And then we all went for a walk, and then I couldn't see that so-called lake. And that stayed with me for a long time. And then probably this is what happens when the union of intentions, wherein Prakriya, our school, and KNA Foundation, and probably Anand Maligwa, the lakeman of Bangalore, all of them wanted to rejuvenate, revive the water bodies here in Bangalore. So the trust and the intention and and also the thing was for me being a civil engineer and then not working, not want to work in that field for just for my livelihood or even for a salary sake. So fulfillment was one thing which was in my mind, and then this is how I took up this project. And next thing was Anand Maligwad was a great support, and he was my mentor during this journey. And today we have completed the first phase of Hadu Siddhapura Lake rejuvenation and supported fully supported by Sita Anantasivan, founder of Bhumi College. And yes, we did face hurdles, challenges were there, taking permissions, all such things were there. But when the community comes together, it is when we connected with the people, the villagers came in, and then we all went to the panchayat and then asked for the permission. They couldn't actually stop us from taking up the work, or else it is always the politicians or the system involved, and they it's not easy always because of, I don't know, the corruption, the corrupted system, whatever it is. So, and fundraising again was a challenge, the lockdown, the COVID. So, but still the hope and determination was still there. And yeah, very much thankful for this opportunity which I've got to be a part of it. So now if I see those kids of Hadusidapura village swimming in that lake, and people getting their cattle, their sheep and goats coming and drinking water, I think that makes my day more than anything. So this is my experience working on this real life project. Yeah, challenges were there, and there was a lot of learning, and of course this working on this project has given me learning, recognition, everything. But beyond all this, the love which I've received from people all around, I think I'm very grateful to be part of this not only lake transforming project but a life transforming one. And I think, yeah, proposed or the next webinar being about meaningful careers would help you guys to connect with it more. So I actually wasn't prepared, and uh, thanks Seshu for considering my little part of being in this project worth sharing. And yeah, I was actually, the framework given to me was even more difficult for me to understand rather than the project itself. So yeah, thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. Bhumi, Anand Malligawad, Hadusudapura village. And when the community comes together, I think great transformation and changes can happen, and in one's life as well as in the society. Yes, thank you. I'm done.
Thank you, Deepak. Pooja?
Okay. So thanks. Yeah, thanks, Deepak. I think we've had a lot of sharings now from Suruchi, from Avni, from Radha and Deepak. And I think you might have got a lot of questions perhaps in your head. So if anyone has any questions that you would like to ask us, maybe you could unmute yourself and ask, or put it in the chat box, and if you could take that up. So we'll take a few questions for the next 2-3 minutes, after which we would like to go into the activity.
Hello.
Yes.
Hi. So Dan here, calling from Shikshantar in Udaipur. In this, I was really interested. I got the email through the Multiversity email chain and was really interested in the real life projects, as it directly aligns with the project that we're working on at the moment.
Right.
And the idea is a web kit that would have recorded interviews on YouTube, a website, and really a way to share these kind of stories with a wider group of people, and to also encourage people to do these similar challenges on their own. So with what you're all doing, when I read about it, it was like, wow, this is such a nice connection here. So I just wanted to share about this project that's also happening within the Ecoversity, Multiversity kind of group, and invite you all to kind of join, maybe 1 or 2 people to join. And then we could showcase the real life projects you're doing through this kind of recorded interview offering. And also you could serve as role models for others, you know, kind of showing them how they can do these similar projects, either on an individual, community, or group level. So I just wanted to share that project, and then invite, you know, anybody that's interested to kind of, we can exchange contact information or whatever.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, thanks. That's really nice. And I guess collaboration is a lot of what real life projects are all about. So I'm sure now, having heard you, a lot of people might be interested in contacting you. What about anyone else who do you have any questions, or anything that you didn't understand or would like to know about?
Hey, good afternoon. This is Vijay. I kind of missed the first couple of minutes of this call, and I was wondering if you guys talked about the course itself and the COVID situation and how and when it might start.
Not in this webinar. We didn't. We'll have different webinars for that, and I think the information ought to also be available soon on the Bhumi website as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're just waiting for the government directive as well, and I think for the next webinar, the open day that we have on 3rd, I think we'll have more things clarified and more details coming up. So maybe you can join us for that webinar, and that we'll be able to probably answer the question then. Does that sound okay?
Yeah, it sounds great. I'll make sure to follow on that. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Okay. Should we then maybe the rest of you, if you could hold your questions or maybe just put it up in the chat box. Why don't we get on to the activity, and then once you have the activity done, perhaps you would have a few more questions and a few more sharings, and then we could get back and we'll open this forum up for all your questions, yeah, and feedback as well. So let's talk a bit about what the activity is going to be like. You're going to have 20 minutes and you're going to have a host in each room. You'll get an invitation saying join breakout room. Once you click on that, you'll get into a breakout room with several other participants as well as a host. The host will explain what the topic is. The topic is going to be something, an example of a real life project that you can take up. So what we would like you to do is consider it as your real life project and start discussing on how you would implement this project. Start thinking about all those questions we put up, right? Who are the stakeholders? How will they benefit from the project? How will you pull in your passion and your skills to make this project successful? And how will you implement this project? So perhaps what we could do now is give you an invitation to this breakout room. Take it in. The host will explain the topic to you. And then let's take it as it goes. Yes? So Adil, if you could.
Yes. So the 5 breakout rooms. I'll just everyone will get an invitation. They just need to accept it, and they'll be part of the room. I think it's for 20 minutes, right?
Yeah, it's for 20 minutes.
20 minutes. Yeah, sure. Okay.
And we'll give a small thing saying 5 minutes left. Yeah.
2 minutes left. Yeah. So
learning thing for each one. Added to that, Pooja mentioned that when you start out, you look at what the group that comes together, what are some of the founding principles or first principles that you're starting the project with? What are some of your own assumptions? Because a real life project is an unfolding journey. At the beginning, you can't predict all the outcomes. So we need to be aware of what are some of our questions and assumptions we are starting with. Midway, we need to take a check. Where have we, what are some of the things that we have learned? What are some of the mistakes that we've made? Have we questioned our assumptions? And therefore, space for course correction. So these are some of the kind of pointers that we follow. And also each group, as it works, they come up with some things that is suitable to their group and what emerges. And end of the project, again, to look back at the entire learning journey and track that, okay, what could we have done better probably, or even in whatever we learned, what are some of our deeper learnings in terms of the content knowledge, in terms of learning with each other, learning about myself, all of that. Now, also, just one last thing to add here is end of the project, at least at Bhumi, we do that. So each member, so they present as a group because real life project is done in a group. So they present, they prepare a presentation that is presented to the entire group. So there also they consolidate the entire, so their learning journey, their experience, what they discovered about the concept, about the topic, also personal experience. So that presentation is a very significant part of the real life project. I hope we answered you, Francis.
Yeah, thanks, Farah. Maybe Francis is he logged in? But thanks. I think that more or less covers a lot of what we did in Bhumi for documenting. Yeah, yeah. In a nutshell, that was a lot. Yeah, as Francis says, yeah, it does clarify. Um, yeah, if anyone else has any queries, or maybe we could just talk about how the session, how the breakout room was for you. How did this session go? If anyone would like to share in just a couple of words, or
Uh, Hi Pooja, this is Sumit.
yes, Sumit. Tell me.
Yeah, I'm going to share about my journey with the real life project that I did. I want to talk about the impact that I had while doing the project, the Safe Food movement, which has given me think about the connections between the farmers and the people in the urban city, the people which are living. It gave me the place has given me to understand people, to understand farmers, their perspective, and how they are growing things, what are the hardships they are facing, and how they are connecting with the real situations in today's time. So it also given me this opportunity to think about this RLP. How can I bring my own management skills while talking to the people out there, having conversation with them, to understand their behavior about the food, what they think about it, and what is the will be the impact on their health, and what leads to them to switch from their chemical food, and what is the health impact they are having it. And it also gave me a perspective about to understand their way of thinking, how their health is and what made them to switch over. My interest, which lies in Ayurveda, and how can we spread this little awareness through this small talk, small conversation with the people who are having during the Sante. They are coming. So it given me an immense platform to understand each and everyone's how they think about the food and what is how they're impacting on their journey. Yeah, yeah, I'm done with it.
All right. Thanks, Sumit. That was really helpful. Uh, yeah. Do we then close the session uh,
Done.
if anyone else would like to share, then please do go ahead. Praveen says, been trying to compost from kitchen waste. It's difficult to find dry leaves, carbon content in urban areas. Does anyone have any alternatives to that, to dry leaves?
Pooja?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes,
you can
Ruchi.
actually, Praveen, you can use cocoa peat.
Yeah, I think you answered Praveen's question.
You can also use sawdust. Maybe you can get it from any uh, carpentry workshop or somewhere.
Okay, we have a lot of options. We have cocoa peat, sawdust, and newspaper, which Avni says. Aldrich says unprinted cardboard. So yes, we have a lot of alternatives, Praveen, to dry leaves. Uh, I think then it has been a really nice session, and I would like to thank you all for being a part of this journey for listening to us so far, and I hope it has been useful. And I do hope you keep in touch with all these webinars that Bhumi is giving. Would anyone else, Farah, Rama, or Teshu, would you like to say anything about the session before we close it?
Yeah. It's been a great session today, and the breakout rooms was also very interesting. And it was so nice that you all, took that initiative and participated in the breakout room discussions. So what I would like to say is that real life projects are like a learning journey where you're concerned about a problem, and then when you start, engaging with it, you're amazed by how simple the solutions are, and you'll be so content at the end of it that you just don't, do a project. You make connections for your life that will last forever. So I hope that we are, kind of ignited that real life project fire in all of you, and you'll all take up different real life projects. And I would also wish all the best to everyone who is already doing a real life project and shared it with us. So it's been a great session. Thank you everyone for joining us.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pooja. Thank you,
Thank
Tejaswini.
you.
Thank you for.
Also, Bhumi, I'm sorry, Adil, before you end, I think Amrita was asking how to join the mailing list for these webinars. So perhaps following Insta.
Sure. Yeah, like I mentioned at the beginning, Amrita and anyone else interested in being part of our mailing list and receiving updates can just direct message me, DM me, or just if you're okay with it, you can drop your mail ID in the chat box and we'll add you to our mailing list. If sometimes you don't get our mails, you could connect to our Facebook and Instagram pages. Just Bhumi College, facebook.com/Bhumi College or Instagram .com/Bhumi College, and just receive updates on upcoming webinars and modules there. Like I said, July we begin our first online module. So if you're interested in that, it's got to do a lot with inner work and the way we perceive things, holistic thinking, and that's kind of needed if you want to really start a real life project and really be successful at it. So in a way, it connects everything. So yeah, if you would like to be part of it and receive more updates on that, just drop your mail ID with me, and we'll make sure that you receive all the updates. So yeah, thank you everyone for joining in. I think the next webinar is on 3rd. Like I said, it's an open day. Just giving you an overview of what experience at Bhumi feels like, Bhumi College, doing the fellowship, living there, just the community aspect of it. So yeah, if you would like to join in, if you would like to invite friends who would be interested in such an adventure, please join in. It's on Wednesday at 3 p.m. and hopefully see you all of you there. And yeah, bye from my side.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Thank you everyone. Have a good day.